Hey, welcome everybody to the video. This is going to be my draft analysis for season 3 of SOS, the Little Cup League that just expanded this season. If you haven't, then please follow us on Twitter down in the description. Join the server if you are interested in anything Little Cup related. Check out our website at which I believe is sosdraftleague.wordpress.com. Yes, you can do all kinds of stuff here. Everything is connected to everything. Follow us on Twitter. Check out, subscribe to the YouTube channel and everything like that. Now, let's get into it. So, the SOS Season 3 Look Up National Decks Gen 8. So, I got a pretty terrible pick on the wheel. Like, I got second to wheel, which is pretty much second to last. So I kind of had to take what was available because shit like the contest for like Rufflet, Mienfoo. No, Mienfoo first of all. Mienfoo, right? Most broken thing probably ever. So let's look at we can just look at the tier list right here, right? Like when you see this, there are some obvious like tier faults here that we should have had more votes on to probably skew the direction of it a little bit, but as you can see, with Volby banned, a very high contested pick is going to be Mienfoo. Is probably the first pick, like no matter what. And here you can see the draft order as well. I believe you can see it. I believe you can see it here, right? So Mienfoo got taken first. I was pick number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And by that time, Sun had gone, Mienfoo had gone, Diglett was gone. So it was either between going Rufflet. I was thinking about drafting Carvana, but that would have been my second tier 1 pick at that point. But I saw that Pawniard was open when it came later on. I had no idea how that actually like survived. But yeah, I was wanting to try something new. I didn't want to do Rufflet. My girlfriend was trying Rufflet, so I didn't just want to double up on the strat right there. So we went with Sand with Drillbur first pick. And when I picked Drillbur first pick, I kind of just banked totally blind on the fact that the rest of my division knew I was going Sand. And by those measures, they would not. I banked on the fact that they would not take Hippopotas, right? So if you pick Drillbur, you kind of want to just pick it together with Hippopotas because you get the Sandra's double speed or the Sand Force 1.3 boost on ground, rock, steel moves, together with Hippopotas, right? That gets Sandstream, which sets up the sand, and in combination with Drillbur is what you refer to as the Sand Core, right? Like in correlation, that would be it would be something like Bulbasaur, Vulpix, right? Like they also pair because you have the Chlorophyll ability. Sun is up, speed is doubled, sets the sun to double this speed, right? So Vulpix was gone, and then I already knew like Bulbasaur, like stuff with Chlorophyll would already be gone. So if someone takes the Weather Setter, then you're pretty much set to get the sweeper, right? But I first picked Drillbur, which means that Hippopotas was actually open. So if someone wanted to take it away from me and ruin my core, they could absolutely do that. And I just banked straight on the fact that no one would do that. And as you can see, I got Hippopotas here, which is not even like in the first 20 picks, right? I saved it for so late, and there's a very, very good reason for why I did that, and I'll show you, right? So my second pick was Pawniard, and this is what really astounds me. Really astounds me hard. How did Pawniard make it this far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I get that Squirtle was here. Squirtle is like it's a very discussable tier 1. It's very broken in tier 2. Not as broken in tier 1, but definitely still very viable and broken, right? It has the shell smash. It has very good coverage. Has rapid spin to get things away. Solid water type overall. Like one of the best water types for sure. So going with sand, you kind of need to have measures against Squirtle, because Squirtle is going to be hard matchup in itself. Like Shell Smash is a really broken setup move in this tier, or not in this tier, in this format, which means that you got to have measures for it, which basically means you got to be prepared to tank some +2 ice beams or +2 scalds, surfs, liquidations, you name it, right? And with this core right here, starting with these 2 picks right here, we have 1 water resist. No, we have no water resist. We have 1 ice resist, and we have 1 water and ice weakness. Going sand core, you already know Hippopotamus is coming later, which doubles up on that. So one of the primary concerns as of this team so far is definitely how do you handle a Shell Smasher that catches you off guard on a bad play, right? That's one of my main concerns with this so far. So what did we draft afterwards? We got Drillbur, we got Pawniard, we good, and then it goes a while, and then we pick up Magnemite. There was a discussion about this in the draft league, because on the document that this tier list is based off of, Magnemite was tier 1, and it is solidly a tier 1 pick, seeing it in retrospect, right? But at the time, we had to slot it in somewhere because I forgot to add it to the actual tier list, and I got most of the suggestions on tier 2 like right at that moment. So it became a tier 2, didn't want to think much about it, and it became a very broken tier 2 pick, to say the least. And no one drafted it. Like, we got awareness, we didn't get awareness of this right before I drafted Magnemite. Like, there was a lot of slots where people had the chance to draft it, but they did not. So it wasn't something like that I, as the owner of the league, just abused for myself. If you don't know how this league works, by the way, there are several draft divisions, which means that they're like, this is the South Pacific division, we have an Arctic division, we have an Antarctic division, we have a North Pacific division, and we have an Indian division, which all are basically they are divisions of 6 to 7 people, which have their completely own tier lists with their complete own drafts. So some picks from one division can overlap to the other, right? So I can pick Drillbur here, but someone in the Arctic division can also pick Drillbur, if that makes sense. So I just have to, and if you look at the schedule, like, the divisions are matched up against each other. Like, you play most of your matches in division, like the first half, and then it goes over to more like you play against other divisions. But the ones with the 7s, we had to pair up with each other, basically, to make it all add up. So don't you worry too much about that. We're here to talk about my team. So, yes, we have a fighting weakness, a ground weakness, which you help boost if something else has Sand Force against you. You have a fire weakness, a water weakness, ice weakness, grass weakness, I do believe. And that fighting weakness, by the way, is ×4. So we have a lot to cover up. We have a lot of power, but we have a lot to cover up, right? And Magnemite, it doesn't really help. Magnemite just kind of, in terms of typings, it adds to the problem. Why does it do that? Because it's a secondary steel type. It's a typing I already have. 4 times weak to ground, so you now have a double ground weakness. It's weak to fighting on top of this being 4 times weak to fighting, and they're both weak to fire, right? So it's not helping anything at all in terms of typing. It gives myself an electric type, but the fact that it's just a really broken Mon as an individual will help this team a lot. It gives me momentum with Volt Switch. It can trap other steel types if necessary, if they have a heavy steel composition. You can go analytic for that insane extra power on top of that 95 special attack I invested, or you can go sturdy berry juice to just kind of get that residual annoying presence on the field. The only thing I have going for me here, though, is that you can see that all of these three are not affected by sand residual damage. So ground types are immune, steel types are immune, and rock types. So we have ground, steel, and rock. We don't have a rock type yet, but you get what I'm saying. Like, none of these take passive sandstorm damage. So running protect or sub is more likely because it will prolong the time that the enemy has to stay and take residual sand damage over time, which can help. It can chip away focus sashes. It can get low health kills that you don't need priority as bad, stuff like that. It just helps, right? So yeah, we got Magnemite, and now we have a major weakness problem. How do we solve all this? And this is where my quest to fix everything starts with Jupiter. And why is Jupiter a severely pivotal pick in this composition? I'll show you right now. First of all, Jupiter, it gets a water immunity, which starts like you have a Sancor, now you have a water immunity. Just give me 2 seconds here. Okay, so you have a water immunity on the sand team that's weak to water. That helps a lot. It's my only water. If I go water bubble, which is probably going to be most of the time, then you still have a water resist. Water resist water. So it's my first and only water resist. On top of that, it also resists ice, which this is also weak to. It's neutral to grass, but we have 2 steel types that resist grass, so I'm not too worried. But this is like a perfect fit to the puzzle for like a 4-man composition already, because this ability water bubble makes it so firepower against it is halved, and it can also not be burned, basically meaning that bug is weak to fire and water is resistant to fire, making it fire types attack against it neutral. It doesn't resist fire as a water type, which is pretty bad. But the ability kind of like picks up that slack and says, hey, we're gonna cut you some slack on the fire, and the ability actually makes you resist fire. So it's like if they have heavy water and shell smash, you can go water absorb to kind of deal with that easier, or you can go water bubble most of the time and get that water power times 2. Is like slapping an adaptability on there on the water type side, not the bug, but and then you can not be burned, and then firepower against it is half. On top of all that, godlike ability, it gets Scald to burn things, it gets Sticky Web, so crucial because all of these guys, like this can have double speed, but Poniard and Sticky Web is actually it makes it so Poniard can kind of like play with the faster boys a little more without having to go sucker punch. Like I can go knock off and have I can play more with the speed with Sticky Web available, just say it like that. Same with Magnemite, to be honest. You don't have to run Scarf all the time. Scarf Magnemite is fine with the Volt Switch and stuff, but you can play around with it, and Sticky Web is definitely going to help the entire draft like that. So it's a pretty amazing mine. It has a little coverage pool, like here and there. It can go special or physical with Liquidation, Scald, stuff like that. It has also Leech Life and Lunge, which are nice moves. Crunch coverage move, Ice Pool a little bit, and this is a safe toxic user, but you primarily draft it for the godlike ability on top of Sticky Web, which is pretty nice. So that's what it also resists ground, by the way. It's a water type, so you can deal with ground types, which I have double weakness for. Cover the fire. It resists fighting for these two, and it resists ground, and it resists fire due to water bubbles. So it's just like the perfect pick for backing up like the huge mess that I've started with. So Jupiter is a pretty pivotal piece in the composition. If Jupiter goes down, then suddenly I have a lot of holes where it's like a lot of things can hit me for neutral without me being able to do much about it, right? So we continue on. After Jupiter, my next pick goes over here, and then we go down to Coughing. Okay, so why did I draft Coughing? Well, Coughing has a bunch of uses for me. Typing wise, like my composition isn't necessarily hardcore focused on getting the double core like Fairy Steel Dragon down and Fire Grass Water down, but it's more a sort of like a team that focuses on having stronger independence and synergy between the mons themselves more than the typings of the mons, if that makes sense. So what does Coughing provide for me? It provides me a Haze user, it provides me Memento, and these two are pretty underrated. Haze is kind of like, I fucked up against the Shell Smasher. If I survive a hit some way somehow, or I Haze on the turn, they Shell Smash and activate their White Herb, I kind of fuck them over with just eliminating their stat changes, or I attack them as they do that and they die, or I Memento to lower their attack and special attack by 2, so I sacrifice this mon to kind of undo a Shell Smash, which gives me a lot of momentum with a clean switch as well, which is pretty nice. Solid move pool, solid stats, godlike abilities. It can either have ground immunity, which we talked about. We need more against ground than just one mon. So Levitate is beautiful because I have the strongest Mold Breaker mon in the format. Because like not Mold Breaker ignores enemy abilities. Like it ignores Levitate. Right, so Drillbur is a very good matchup against Coughing, but since you took Drillbur away, then Coughing like has a lot more freedom to use Levitate than it would have otherwise. Right, there are still other people that use Drillbur, but then you can use neutralizing gas to kind of like get their sand boosting ability gone, or you can even like run Levitate and bank on the fact that they don't have Mold Breaker. So there are a lot of stuff you can do with Coughing. It's kind of like a mind game, but godlike abilities. Poison type, which if I'm not using Levitate, is grounded to absorb enemy toxic spikes. I also get toxic spikes of my own. Has Thunder, has Flamethrower, Shadow Ball, pretty nice. It also has Destiny Bond and Explosion, which can do solid amounts. It also has Recovery with Pain Split, pretty nice. And it also has Taunt and 100% accurate Toxics, which is really, really nice. Really nice. I can also do some Venoshock stuff. I can trap things with Infestation. Yeah, there's a lot I can do with this mod. It's a pretty solid mod. Curse is even a tech I could do. I don't know if I would though, but it's there if I want to. So Coughing is there for those reasons. It's a pretty good mod. Okay, we move on to the next. Right after that, I picked Hippo up because I couldn't risk going without it any longer. Because like I had to wait all through these picks, and if like I know Mudbray is there, and I saw Mudbray get taken like here. So I was a bit scared that like if someone needed a ground type with Stealth Rocks, then they would look for Hippo, and they got Sand as well. They didn't necessarily have to draft Drillbur. They could have gone like Sandshrew, which also gets Rapid Spin as Stealth Rocks and gets the Sand boosting ability with some options. So I couldn't just risk it anymore. I had to pick that up for the core, of course. So we got Sand on our team. So yeah, so we do get that weakness problem and stuff like that, but it's another solid mon with Stealth Rock, Recovery, just like a textbook, pretty standard textbook ground type, so to speak. Actually gets access to Water Pulse. I did not know that, but it does not have that high special attack. Cursed User, Phaser, Toxicer, yeah, not much else. Textbook ground type, but the ability is pretty good. So, all right, so that's the first half. The second half, we're kind of like picking up the slack. This is not the best team that I've ever drafted, and as I said, it has more emphasis on the individual mons and their ability to perform and sweep for me than other than what like a typing combination of team would have had. But so far, how many mons do we have that are sand resistant? We have 1, 2, 3. These 2 will take sandstorm damage, but 4. So 4 out of 6. Woohoo! Excuse me. 4 out of 6 are resistant to residual sand damage, which is pretty good. Yeah, next pick. We go to Hippopotamus, and then we go all the way down again to Jangmo. And here is where I do like kind of like a thing for where I'm trying to make up for the typings that I'm missing, right? Because now I went like, oh, I want that mon because that is strong with this team in terms of ability, in terms of playing around sand and stuff, and sweeping with sticky web and stuff like that. So I kind of went on to that while still trying to cover for my typings. I didn't have a dragon type, which I needed. It does have a common ice weakness with my sand core, but it's being backed up by the ice resist of Jupiter, on top of the fact that I have a double steel type core, or not core, but I have 2 steel types that can deal with dragons, dragon weakness, ice weakness, and fairy weakness in one go, because steel resists all of that. So it gets his weaknesses pretty covered. I can go a bulk up set where I focuses more on the defense sweep. I can go Dragon Dance where it's like more speed reliant with damage. So yeah, I have some options. It's a pretty strong dragon type with some solid coverage here and there. Not the best mon out there, not the best dragon type either, but in terms of having abilities that are pretty good as well. Like, yeah, couldn't pass this mon up. It gets overcoat if I want to be immune to my own sandstorm, so it can be sand resistant. It can set up substitutes and sweep easier because of soundproof. So no, because we all know that sound moves go through the substitute and deal damage behind substitute, but they don't with soundproof. So yeah, pretty good. Or I could go, if they don't have sound move access, I can go bulletproof and block like ball moves. So I have like so much ability reliant or ability options basically, which is pretty good for me. Aside from that, there's not really much to it. It doesn't get stealth rock, doesn't get anything like that. It gets taunt though. So that's kind of it for Jang. After Jangmo, I started thinking to myself like, holy shit. I kind of still get wrecked by things, but I'm still going to go for my core. Try to patch up the core. So my tier 4 pick was actually like, I got myself a decent tier 4 pick. Like, a lot of the tier 4 picks are just straight up trash. This one is a wish user. It's a fairy type with 45 special attack with yeah, a decent move pool, so it can do some stuff, but yeah, I might wait. So yeah, it doesn't really get much, but as I'm seeing it right now, like all I'm seeing I'm getting is like draining kiss. So so I'm not like that strong on the fairy side. I do realize that, but it's more of a supportive mon, and it's more like cure all status conditions, heal my team up. Seismic toss is pretty nice. Magic coat to send things back. Protect for sand resist. There's a lot it can do. Here. But yeah, not the best fairy type in that sense, but it does have screens. More of a supportive pick. It does have healing, can thunderwave things, toxic things, trick things. Yeah, it's kind of like there to do that. So my team isn't like, hey, I have a fairy type. It's more like, hey, I have a supportive Pokemon that happens to be fairy type. But all its weaknesses are covered, so that's pretty nice. Yeah. Next on is because I was more thinking like, okay, so Togepi was taken, So I have to get a fairy type somehow, some way, and Cleffa was kind of like my last way out because I didn't want to go Imp or stuff like that because I already had a dark type. Yeah, there wasn't that much goodness of fairy types to choose from. I didn't want Moral either. So, because I kind of wanted a fairy type that does something, like Wish or stuff. So I felt like Cleffa was a good tier 4 pick. And then we get the tier 4 pick out of the way, because I really had no idea what to do for that anyway. And then next up, after Cleffa, I believe I did my last pick. No, I have 2 more picks. So I did Rowlet into Slugma. So Rowlet is another ice weakness, and you're thinking, holy shit, aren't you just setting yourself up to be swept by a Shell Smasher with water ice? Like water ice, water, stops here, but aside from that, water ice, ice. And I'm thinking like, yeah, but as I've talked about so far, we do have our measures of dealing with that. Aside from that, we do a Shell Smasher has to kind of set up Shell Smash to sweep, and I believe that I have to do something critically. I have to stay on my tippy toes all the time, and I cannot afford to make like a crucial mistake against Shell Smashers, and not everyone has Shell Smash either. I believe that this team composition is really strong against teams that do not have Shell Smash. So yeah, but Rowlet was like, I don't have a grass type yet, but I would like a grass. I don't have any removal yet, aside from Drillbur with Rapid Spin, and I don't want to go Rapid Spin on that all the time. So I went Rowlet. I wanted a grass type that can deal with other grass types and has removal, and this is exactly that. Grass type, it can also, it's another fighting resist on top of this one, and poison and bug, because I don't have a ghost type. That was one of my regrettable decisions with this team, is that I don't have a fighting immunity. I have a shit ton of resistances against fighting, but I don't really have an immunity, which sucks. But it's a flying type. I don't have a flying type yet. It can do Scarf Baton Pass. It can do Sub Baton Pass. It has priority in Sucker Punch, Shadow Sneak. It's another Haze user on top of my Coughing. It has Knockoff, which is pretty nice. Leaf Blade, Strong Stab, Brave Bird, pretty nice. Could go Curset in very, very niche situations, but just like all around solid grass flying type for a tier 3. Yeah, you can do some stuff here and there. Feather Dance can also come into situations where if I get the first Feather Dance off, I'm in like such a good position to do things, because it also gets Roost to heal, so I don't have to use Rest, which is pretty nice. So yeah, Source Dance capabilities as well with some priority. I can do stuff here. Doesn't have very good abilities at all. The only thing I can think of with Long Reach is that I don't get offended. I meant affected by Yamask abilities or Ferrothorn abilities like Iron Barbs or Mummy, which takes it away. But Mummy would probably be better in that situation. But I also have the option to just go Overgrow, which is a massive boost to Grass type if I go Focus Sash and I don't have Sand Up, or I have Eviolite and I survive a hit that is an Ice type or stuff like that. So it has a lot of weaknesses, but it's a decent typing. Stuff like that. And to cover up my core, I just threw a Slugma in there. It's like the only tier 4 fire type. It's not a bad tier 4. It's like in the upper echelon of tier 4. It has kind of a lot of options for a tier 4. I can go Flame Body, physically defensive, and try to get some burns off. I have Will-O-Wisp, and I can go like a weak armor sweep set. I have Clear Smog, which works like Haze on everything that's not steel. I have Memento, just like Coughing if I want to get an advantage, like position advantage. I could get lucky and get a boost of Ancient Power. Yeah, good toxic stuff. I can set up screens to reflect and light screen. Protect to stall. It has healing with Recover, Pain Split. Yeah, so it's not the worst fire type out there. It also gets Lava Plume, which is very nice. for stuff like if I survive a physical super effective hit, I can have weakness policy, and then I get speed raised, and then it's just a sweeping fire type that actually it becomes quite hard to stop. The only regrettable thing about this one is that it does not get any grass coverage, which will be a pain in the ass, I can already tell. It also has stuff destruct, and it can trap things with infestation and stuff like that. So it also has acid armor amnesia, so I can raise my special defense ×2, or I can raise my defense ×2, which is like, people know about it, but if you don't think it through, then you might not see it coming, and then I get an advantage off of that. So yeah, and that's basically my 10 mons. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 5 6 7 8. Not the best team I've ever drafted, I'm not gonna say that. And there were parts in the draft there I was like, okay, this is certainly a very good team. And then as I drafted more and more, I was like, okay, this is not that good at all. But we have some really OP picks in here. It's just about using them to their best advantage. I don't really have a super speedy team, but I do have weak armor that can increase speed. I have sand that can double speed. I have dragon dance, so I can sticky web to get all of my things pretty quite a bit faster. So I do have the options of doing a lot of stuff. It's just about playing it right. And I do have some like key typing, not weaknesses, but typing holes, whereas like I can get hit with a lot of things for neutral just across the board, so I have to be careful about that. But I do believe I can take this team to great heights with some good prepping, and if everything else goes to shit, then I can always do some transactions, but I'll make sure to update you guys if anything like that happens, if I get the time to do it, which I probably will. This is my first time testing out a new microphone, by the way. It's my brother's microphone. I have ordered myself a similar one, so the sound quality is a lot better than what it usually is in my videos, because I just use the standard one that's built into the computer. Well, this one sounds a lot nicer, so hopefully that makes it a more enjoyable experience to watch the video. Aside from that, leave me any comments down in the comment section below. What you thought about the team, your expectations of the Oslo City Swabluroonies for the season. Make sure to hop in the server, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube, all that good stuff. And be sure to follow, especially on this YouTube channel, so you can get updates to whether or not what's going to happen throughout the season. We'll post different videos on here for sure. That's it for now though, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll be seeing you guys next time. I love you guys. Bye.